Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the majestic one, Miss Steve Marks, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
This is the biggest name in Australian wrestling, the J-Stick, JXC, and you're watching Wrestling with Entertainment.
I'm Chelsea Durden, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, bringing you the latest exclusive breaking news, previewing and reviewing the latest shows from WWE, AEW, New Japan, and everything in between every Saturday, and interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I am, of course, your host, James Shea, alongside Kaliko Yachts, who is not here tonight, but who is Scooter Dust.
Remember, a belt made of watches is just a waste of time.
And it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with Chelsea Durden.
Hello. Hello, it is me. It is I. I am Chelsea, in fact, Durden.
How are you, Chelsea?
I'm, not too bad. Just, finished my daily engagement with capitalism. It's what I like to call my shoot job.
I love that. That is great.
Well, as much as suit jobs are great, we want to know what you're doing in your working job.
In my wrestling job,
Yes.
uh, let's see. Well, I do wrestling and wrestling related things. Coming up, you'll be able to catch me at 01 USA in Mattoon, Illinois on April 30th. You can catch me at Shine on April 17th in Clearwater, Florida. That also streams live on WWNlive.com and on Fight TV. So you can actually stream that if you're feeling froggy. And if you're feeling particularly capitalist yourself, you could always head over to prowrestlingtees.com/Chelsea Durden and help me put my cats through college. It's very expensive. One of them is attending Harvard. Let's see, what else do I have going on in my life? Oh yeah, social media. That is also a thing. You can follow me on Instagram at Durden Says, Twitter at The Durden Says, and don't add me on Facebook because I don't know you.
All right. And a follow-up question: what is your cat's majoring in college?
Well, we got a few different things going on here because I have, in fact, 5 cats.
Ooh.
One of them here is majoring in underwater basket weaving, which is a little known major at Harvard. And another one is majoring in women's studies. And the rest of them are just freeloading garbage who have no aspirations in life.
How dare they?
Right?
Yeah.
So they're us. No.
All right. Now, you recently had a tag team match against Allysin Kay and Marti Belle with your partner Erica Torres. Can you tell us about that match?
Yeah, so that was an absolutely wacky endeavor. Myself and Erica Torres, along with Kelsey Reagan and Viperous, are part of a group called the Coven. And right now we have the Shine tag team belts in our sights. And last Shine, we left the building with the titles. So I don't see what the issue is with them saying that we didn't win them because we definitely left with them. So
Possession
I
is
don't.
9/10 of the law.
It's It's, yeah, possession's 9/10 of the law, and I choose not to recognize the negative energy of anyone who chooses to say that we did not leave the building with those titles. But it started out the show before that when Erica and I teamed up to take on Marti Belle and AK, and it didn't work out in our favor, but that is only because it wasn't meant to work out that night. The universe has plans for everyone, and it didn't work out because it wasn't meant to work out, because it was meant to work out the next time.
Yeah.
See how that works?
Mm-hmm.
But in all seriousness, even though I hate them as people, Marti Belle and AK are absolutely fantastic to work with, and it was my pleasure to beat the shit out of them with a kendo stick, and I cannot wait to do it again.
It seems like there are definitely opportunities in the future to do so.
Oh, for sure. It's far from over. As a matter of fact, they are who we will be seeing again on April 17th. That one promises to be a barn burner, and not just because I plan on burning the entire barn down.
All right, I love that. Scooter, you have a question.
Now, you recently had your 1 year anniversary, correct?
I did my 1 year wedding anniversary with my husband.
Mazel tov. I
Thank
am
you.
I am also very Jewish myself. So the question is, like all Jewish mothers say, well, and I guess say to their daughters, is your husband a nice Jewish boy?
My husband is actually a nice Jewish boy. You could not imagine my mother's joy when I
Oi.
brought home my Jewish boyfriend and finally fulfilled her dream of having her daughter marry a nice Jewish boy. Now,
Oh, like a
however,
clock.
he is not a doctor or a lawyer,
Oh,
so that did threaten to not work in his favor, but he is a very nice Jewish boy. He cooks all the right dishes. He
he's
knows
not much
he is very
sugar.
far from Meshuggah.
Yeah. Uh, also, your husband is Samson, and he's got the nickname the Lion from Zion, correct?
Yes, he also wrestles. He is the Lion from Zion, and I was going to mention that next because it would be remiss of me to not also plug my husband.
Well, this is not a question, just a fun little coincidence. I got all my bar mitzvah supplies from a store called the Zion Lion.
I love that. If only we had something like that down here in Florida. But
You don't? Oi.
as a matter of fact, my husband is homegrown Jewish from the motherland.
Ah, he's from Israel.
Yeah, I actually, when I went to visit him and meet his parents, his mother and his father, was the first time I visited Israel, so that was pretty cool. And I was actually scheduled to be on an Israeli wrestling show there recently. However, due to circumstances beyond our control, what with COVID and whatnot, it was sadly canceled.
Oh, that sucks.
Uh,
I do have
uh,
I do have a follow-up question. Your husband's name is Samson. Have you ever thought about shaving his head and ending his wrestling career?
I would sooner end my own life than I would shave my husband's head.
what is that?
I could never. I could
Mm,
never end his wrestling career, number one, because that would be a crime to wrestling because he's 6'7" and can, just jostle people around like he's fluffing pillows. And also, like, have you seen his glorious mane? I'm assuming you have, because it sounds like you have taken a peek at my social media.
Yes.
And I could never do that to him, to myself, to the world. It would be a travesty.
I would think the power would really be in the beard.
The power is also stored in the beard, but the beard gains support from the hair on the head.
Ah,
One finds difficulty without the other.
a great big follicular network, as it were.
Now you mentioned it. You work for Shine and 01. Can you tell us about your relationships with those companies?
Shine, I think, has been a staple in women's wrestling for a little while now, and a lot of big stars have come through there and continue to go through there. So I started working with them a few years back, and I was really grateful for the opportunity to kind of show what I'm made of on that larger scale. So I'm really glad to be a part of it, and that they kind of let me just go wild and do whatever I want. It's pretty crazy. I mean, I'm sure they don't like want me to keep setting things on fire, but that's neither here nor there.
And taking
Now
the
with
titles as well.
yeah, that too, I just kind of do what I want. But with 01, I've come to start working with them recently. I am a big fan of their counterpart in Japan. So to be able to be a part of the American version was also really, really cool for me. They had a women's champion for a very long time by the name of Reign Victoria, and she and I became good friends during her last trip or her trip to Florida, I should say, a few years ago. And the pandemic had gotten in the way of her trying to bring me up there until now. So now that things are kind of rolling again, she was able to help me make that connection, so I could come up and be a part of the fun. And I definitely kicked her ass last show, because what are friends for?
Of course.
And I'm super stoked to get back there next month.
And I believe that was a title match that also included Max the Impaler, correct?
It was. I was actually supposed to have a singles title match with Max in March. They were having a doubleheader weekend where I would challenge for the title on Saturday, but unfortunately, electronics and car parts are hard to come by in the wasteland where Max is from.
Yes.
So they were not able to make it for Saturday, and I wasn't able to have that singles match with them. So what we ended up doing was having a triple threat last weekend, because for some reason Reign Victoria and another girl were having a number one contenders match for the title, but technically I would still be the number one contender because I had never gotten the match that I was promised. So naturally I bullied my way into it, and we had a banger last week. It
It
was
seems like
pretty cool.
it seems like Chelsea Durden is not being treated fairly. I mean, you have the tag team titles. You had a number one contender shot. They're not crowning you tag team champions. They are not giving you title opportunities. What the hell? What the hell's up with that?
There's got to be. I'm starting to think there's something in the water. Maybe the moon's like an Aquarius or something, or Mercury's in Gatorade, and it's just people are not acting in such a way that they need to be. But that's fine. I have it handled. I have a kendo stick. I have an absurdly large lighter, and a whole lot of chutzpah.
And that brings us to a question from Scooter Ross.
All right, now let's break it down a little bit. Durden, I'm assuming, is a reference to Fight Club and its unreliable narrator, Tyler Durden. Are you a fan of Chuck Palahniuk, and what other novels of his are you a fan of besides Fight Club?
I've read a lot of I've read a lot of his stuff, a lot of the novella stuff. Choke
Yes.
was really, really, really disturbing, but that's fine because it's kind of Chuck's way about things. So I didn't mind it. It's really funny actually. I'm a big fan of Fight Club, but not necessarily for the reasons that people think. It's a movie that a lot of people don't realize was a book first, and it's the type of thing that like a lot of bro guys kind of latch onto as being cool. Like, yeah, Brad Pitt, badass
Yeah.
fighter, movie about fighting, but it's not entirely what it's about. It's about, fragile masculinity and male egos and stuff. And professional wrestling is absolutely chock full of that. So for me it's kind of like a that's the joke kind of thing as to how I came to adopt that moniker. But most people don't really look that deep into it, which is fine. I don't expect them to. It's just kind of a little inside joke for myself to enjoy, and it's pretty great.
Yes, I love Choke. I read the book. And I also believe the closing credits on Fight Club movie are actually now Orange Cassidy's theme song. I believe it's the Pixies that play over the credits. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. James, over to you.
Can you tell us about your stablemates in the Coven, Vipress and Chelsea Regan, and what's a pet peeve you just don't understand about both of them?
Well, there's also a fourth member, Erica Torres.
Couture, yes.
I suppose for Vipress, I don't really understand her coffee obsession. I mean, I'm very reliant on caffeine as much as any of them are, because without the go-go juice, nothing goes. But coffee specifically, I don't really get. I can't talk myself into spending $7 on a Starbucks latte. But to each their own, and it did come in handy one time in a match that I will definitely not refer to as being versus AK and Marty. That certainly never happened.
No.
And frankly, I don't know why you would even accuse me of such.
I never said a word.
Kelsey, I don't get why she needs to wear a crown of snakes on her head to the ring, because she knows it freaks me out every single time, and every time I catch her out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, oh God, what is that? But it's just the crown. And I think at this point she almost takes like a sick measure of joy in freaking me out about it, but the jury's still out on that one. Erica, has stopped giving me free tarot card readings, which is annoying because she does not like when I flip the table over when I get a bad reading. She says that every time I destroy her table, I will now need to buy her a new one. So she's just taken to charging me for readings. And I think, as friends, like as stablemates, that we should use our talents to help one another. And if I'm getting bad readings and I'm getting angry about it, then clearly the reading needs to change. And that's
Right.
part of customer service.
I think the problem
But
there is
I
she
love them.
needs tables that can't be easily flipped over.
Well, that's I wouldn't really blame her there because I can flip pretty much any table.
Ah,
It's not hard.
all right.
But what can I say? I love all three of them.
All right. Scooter, you have a question.
Now, according to Cage Match's record, which sometimes they're not always that accurate, but your first match on record was a match for the NWA Women's World Championship back in 2015. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you please tell us about that and what is it like to have your first match, at least from a consistent point of view, to be for a belt that many consider prestigious?
Well, I certainly still think it's a super prestigious title, and I would go on to challenge for it a few more times after that, which was really cool for me. To have that be my very first match in front of real humans was terribly nerve-wracking for me. It was against Santana Garrett, who would go on to become, a close friend and mentor to me over the years. I owe a lot of what I know and what I'm able to do in wrestling to her. So I'm really thankful to have, met her so early in my career. That being said, the match was nowhere near glamorous. It was outside at a flea market next to the tire shop. Um, and the canvas was burning up.
Ooh.
Couldn't touch it for too long, so you can imagine that I definitely left sunburned, but not worse for their wear because it was a great learning experience for me, and I'm glad it happened.
All right.
Now, speaking of championships, you've been the CPW Women's Champion for over 1,100 days.
Not not really. It's technically I've never lost it since winning it, but I've also never defended it. And that's because the company doesn't really exist anymore. It didn't really to begin with. They had one show in Colombia where the inaugural champion was Vanilla Vargas. She beat me for that. And then um, in and that was in October 2018, and then in January 2019 I beat her for it, but I never defended it after that. The company they never ran another show. They thought that I was in possession of their belt, and I never was. So the owners of the company were, stalking me on social media and threatening to come to my house, threatening to like ambush me at shows to get their belt back. And I just kind of I stopped responding to them the very first time that they threatened me because I never had their belt. Um, I never brought it home with me. So
Hmm. Interesting.
So that's the story with that. I guess technically, by the record books, I'm technically still the champion, but it doesn't really mean anything. Not to discount the wonderful people and fans in Colombia that I met when I was there. They were absolutely wonderful and incredibly welcoming to have me in their country, and I hope I get to go back someday on, better terms, maybe with a different company, because I really did love bringing wrestling to people in, a time where I don't think they had uh, like a WWE show or any sort of independent show come to town in like many, many years. So that was the first wrestling show there that people could actually attend in a while. And I'm glad I was able to be a part of it. I just hope something a little better, opens up in the future.
Well, being technically correct is the best kind of correct, so.
It is the best kind of correct.
And with that, Scooter?
Okay, I'm going to apologize in advance if this is a sore subject. There is an 8-day span in your career of, I'll say, Tammy Lynn's evolution into Chelsea Durden. What brought that on in the first place?
Oh, dear God. Okay. So we got to go back for this. The name Tammy Lynn was not my choice, and the kind of persona, I guess you could say, at the time was also not my choice, not my idea. There was a person who pretended he knew how to train people how to wrestle, who was super racist and was obsessed with attaching some sort of trailer trash, redneck, hillbilly type of gimmick to people, and he would try it out on every student that came through his doors. So I was another unlucky victim of that. And, my very first match with Santana Garrett, which was an experience that I should be able to treasure and look back on more fondly than I do. I was wearing jorts and a wife beater, and an American flag bandana. I thought at the time that your trainer's word was law, and that I could do, something with it that wasn't completely terrible, but I hated every second of it, and I wanted to ditch it from the very first time that it was pitched to me. So when I was finally allowed to change my name, I did so immediately, and I never looked back.
I like that. I like that empowerment. And oddly enough, I did have a similar experience in terms of being forced into something you don't want to be, but yet, and yet you're still kind of naive, and I think that goes for every new person that breaks into this business. There's that naivety that we can't go against our trainers, whatever our trainers do, and it's I applaud you for for your strength in that.
It's I don't know. It's a really shitty thing to look back on, because my empowerment in that situation did not come until much, much later, way longer than it should have. And I look back on my time in that time in my life with like absolute disgust. I was scared, and I was panicking, and the threat loomed above my head of being, at first just being, blackballed from wrestling was constantly dangled over my head, and then very quickly threats of violence and other things. I'm sure you guys have gone back far enough into my social media to kind of see some things that went on and I had to go through, and it sucks. It's a part of wrestling that is so antiquated and desperately needs to change, and that's exactly why I drew attention to it in the first place. But anyway, I'm rambling. I'm going on a rant.
Oh no, you're fine.
Not at all.
No, it's I just like to say, if it was back in, let's say then, like in the 2010s, that I equate that to the Wild West days of pro wrestling. And obviously we've progressed some, but some just can't seem to get out of those Wild West days. But let's go on to something that's more positive. You've wrestled a who's who, but one name that really stuck out to me was Mercedes Martinez.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about that experience and maybe what you learned from such a seasoned veteran of this sport?
Oh man, I cannot possibly say enough amazing things about Mercedes Martinez. The first time I worked with her, I was way too green to be in the ring with that woman who was already very legendary, um, in my opinion. And so even looking back on that, I think like, damn, how did she deal with me back then? But she's also one who has become over time like a great mentor and source of advice and everything like that. And there has never been a time where I haven't learned something from her in the ring, whether it be in training or through a match. Like even when I'm getting my ass beat, like I come out of it a better wrestler. Like even if I can't win, it doesn't matter, because when you're in there with something like that, someone like that, you're gonna learn something. You're gonna come out of it a better athlete. And she I was just flabbergasted over the years, wondering when she was, finally going to get her due and, the recognition that she deserved. And it looks like she's finally being recognized and treated like the absolute legend that she is.
Oh, absolutely. I love Mercedes, and I believe Scooter is deadly terrified of her.
I love her to pieces. I am absolutely terrified of her though, and it's not my fault when your when your asshole promoter says, "All right, go out and tell and try to get word to Mercedes to wrap up a match against Sumi Sakai."
Oh my God, they're sending you out there on a suicide mission.
Yep.
Yep.
Like I'm on good terms with Mercedes, for the moment. Whenever she wants to beat my ass, I'm sure she can. And like, she terrifies me. I would never ever ever wanna cross her. Whenever I'm across from her in the ring in front of in a match sense, and I'm like, oh my God, she could, like, there's 1,700 different things in this room that Mercedes could use to kill me, including the room itself.
Yes.
And I can't imagine with somebody like Sumi Sakai, who is also incredibly talented, fucking legendary, and could also kill me with anything in any given room at any time. And you have to go out there and tell both of them in the same match to take it home. It's like they may as well have just sent you directly into traffic.
Yeah, well, that's the NYWC for you.
Well, he
Oops.
definitely had to avoid traffic running out of the arena, if you have to say that.
You know what? Quite honestly, I would bet that Mercedes doesn't even remember it because it was 12 years ago. But when you're relatively new in wrestling and you're a ring announcer and you're essentially the go-between between backstage and the ring, something like that sticks with you.
Oh yeah, it's an experience that, you'll always remember. Will she remember? Probably not, but only because that's one night for her out of thousands where she's had to, just be at another show in another building and do her thing.
Right. But feel free, next time you see her, feel free to bring it up to her.
And I'm gonna kill you.
Scooter, you have a question.
Now,
Don't forget the Burger King question.
I will Burger King your face, James. Which one do I want to go with? You know what? Alright, how do I put this? Blink twice if you were the Bear Ranger in Kaiju Big Battle.
What's a Bear Ranger? That's weird. Like a park ranger, but the ranger is also a bear in disguise, or like a Power Ranger mixed with a bear.
That is exactly the response I was looking for. But I'll take that and I'll transition into you're a fan of the Power Rangers overall.
I
From your
am, in
research.
fact.
What's your favorite incarnation of the Rangers and your favorite villain, if you can say?
For me, it's always, and I'm sure this is a cliched answer, but for me, it's always my original. And
Yes.
the original incarnation of Power Rangers for me was Mighty Morphin.
Yeah.
That's the first incarnation of Power Rangers that I was introduced to. Those were the Rangers that I knew. Those were the Rangers that raised me, for lack of a better term. And so my first big Ranger villain is Rita Repulsa. And, her yelling that these Rangers are giving her a headache is going to be burned into my brain for the rest of my life.
Yeah. A staple of my childhood, indeed. I have a spot in my heart for the original. I do have to say, though, that the Thunder Zords kind of edge it out, and Lord Zed kind of ranks a little bit above for me over Rita, but when they end up married in that third season, I think, just so great. Just.
No shame there. Thunder Zords are fantastic.
Follow-up question. What are your thoughts on the Green Power Ranger?
Like the Green Power Ranger in general, the Green Power Ranger from Mighty Morphin, the guy who plays him.
There is there's wide debate and heat on the Green Ranger, whether or not he actually does it.
Yeah, I'm Jason Frank for
Yes, yeah. So
going
you're
against Punk.
talking. You're not speaking specifically about the Green Ranger, Tommy Oliver. You're asking about Jason David Frank, the guy who played him.
I know the Green Power Ranger and whether or not he had any right to be the Green Power Ranger, because there are some passionate debate on whether he was a good Power Ranger or not.
Well, I was a huge Green Ranger and later White Ranger stan as a kid, and still today. I thought it was great. You know, I was like 5 years old. I was 6 years old. There was like I was not like fuck, this doesn't go in with the original Power Rangers, and he became a ranger later and he didn't know what the or any like stuff like that. There's some things in pop culture that I'll really advocate for or against pretty hard, but the Green Ranger is not one of them. I'm always about it. Thought he made a great de facto leader, and you know, long live the Dragon Zord.
Right. Now, you also did production for No Peace Underground and Polyam Cult Party, correct?
Yeah, there's yeah. So that Polyam Cult Party did not. Polyam Woodstock did not actually take place. When we got there, it was a person's backyard, and nobody had any idea going into it. And you know, through no fault of MV Young, you know, he had no idea either, because it was 4 promotions going in to make this day long Polyam Woodstock happen. It was No Peace Underground. It was Polyam Cult. I cannot for the life of me remember the other Jersey promotion, and another one called T2T. They had provided the ring. So we got there, and it was out in the burbs in New Jersey, and it was someone's house and a backyard. It was a big house and a big backyard, and it accommodated the ring, and it belonged to the other Jersey promoter's grandma, who I got the sense that he was kind of like, hey, can I shoot a wrestling thing in the backyard with my friends? And she was like, sure, I don't see why not, and was absolutely not in any way prepared to accommodate hundreds of people in her yard and her one downstairs bathroom. So I don't remember this guy's name, but it was all his fucking fault, because his mom and his grandma freaked out and started, you know, violently cursing and aiming slurs at people. And she was like, you all need to get all your fucking shit and get the fuck out of my house. And I was like, whoa, I just showed up. Blame your son. And because people were showing up to this venue, this person's house, and actually leaving and not wanting to be part of the show because it was this backyard bullshit thing. So it actually never happened. And it was this whole mess trying to get the doors returned and the light tubes, and trying to get people rides back to you know, where they were coming from. And it was a crazy nightmare, and I was awake for like 30 hours straight. And some say I'm still sitting on that balcony overlooking that yard, typing furiously on my laptop to this very day.
Wow.
Now that really sounds like Jersey All Pro to me. It's either that H2O or Ace, but Ace runs out of Hoboken, not the suburbs.
No, it wasn't H2O, because there was an H2O show that night and
Ah,
a lot of people were headed there after. It
well,
was maybe Jersey All Pro. Don't quote me, because I don't remember, because the entire day was just a rush of ridiculousness.
What I was getting at is the production side of pro wrestling something that interests you outside of a wrestling career.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've run shows before, and I'm sure I'll run them again. And it's, that part is probably more stressful than wrestling itself, because you have a lot of things you're responsible for, a lot of people, a lot of um, everything, because you have to write up a card and think about times, make sure you have reps that are actually trained, make sure finishes aren't repeating. Oops, I broke the fourth wall. Make sure you have a legitimate venue, you're marketing the event, you have a ring that's not falling apart. You have if you're not running the production yourself, as far as music cues, timing, etc., you have to have a competent crew to be able to do that. You need a ring announcer, and you can't just use the promoter's nephew. That's a real skill. That's a real job
yeah.
that requires training and experience. Same with referees. You can't just throw any asshole in there and tell them to count to three. It doesn't work like that. You've got to market your event. You can't just share a flyer on Facebook a bunch of times and post it on Instagram and hope people get there. You have to have, you know, sponsors, maybe vendors. You got to have concessions if your venue doesn't have some sort of utility for that themselves. You have to have event insurance. Most anywhere that's not a shack in the middle of the woods is going to require event insurance, and that's expensive. You have to pay your talent properly. You have to coordinate flights, hotels, transportation. There is so much that goes into the production of a successful wrestling event that most people don't even realize. It's tax return season, so we're gonna have a lot of tax refund championship wrestlings opening up in the next few months, that are all over the country, that are probably gonna run one or two shows at most and then shut down, and they're all gonna suck because of reasons I've listed above. And it's the reason why, in I'm sure it's the same in every state, but especially states like Florida and California and things that are states that are so gigantic. You can get lost on your way to the bathroom in the early morning and accidentally wind up at, three different backyard bullshit promotions that shouldn't even be called promotions, people that shouldn't be running a wrestling show. And so that's my little rant on that. Um, and yeah.
All right. Scooter, you have a question.
Yes. Now, I was very moved by a something you did involving a group of kittens. Because I actually did something very similar. Uh, I found a kitten once. The area of Long Island I was on was infamous for multiple strays. Found a kitten. We took it to uh, the shelter, which are no kill there. And we fed it and everything, throughout the night. And after knowing this animal for 5-6 hours, when we go and drop it off, I'm bawling like a baby. And this happens again about a few months later. But it's a mother and her kitten. Uh, um, and this time I decided, screw it, I'm going to take them in. The mother I named her Lee, and the kitten I named Pip because she looked like the chipmunk from Enchanted. Pip had a curved spine, had cerebellar hyperplasia, uh, and they both had FIV. I was told they'd be lucky if they'd make it to a year. Pip lived for 7 years. Lee lived for 12. Uh, and on top of that, you named them the Avengers.
I did, in fact, name them the Avengers. So that's great that you were able to have a kitten with cerebellar hyperplasia survive, because unfortunately, that is how I lost one of the Avengers, Thor, a few days in. So the story of this goes is that I'm sitting at work, and my friend texts me, and she's like, "Hey, look what I found." And she texts me a picture of 6 like 3 or 4 day old kittens in an Amazon box. And I was like, "What do you mean you found that? Like, what's going on?" And so she explains that she found them in a corner in her yard, and she was watching them for a while because she didn't want to interfere if the mother was coming back, but the mother never came back. So she grabbed them, and she called a bunch of animal shelters, and animal shelters typically do not take neonatal kittens like that don't have a mother, because they don't have the resources for it. They require round the clock care. And so she was like, "I don't know what to do." And of course I was enraptured from the beginning. So I was like, fuck it, just bring them to me. So she dropped them off at my job. And this was right at the very beginning of COVID quarantine. This was in April 2020. So I had nothing going on outside of work anyway. And I'm like, fuck it, I will derail my entire life to care for these kittens. I know I just met them, but if anything ever happens to them, I will kill everyone in the room and then myself.
Oh.
Yeah, it's how I feel about animals. So I called my roommate and I was like, "Hey, I need you to drop everything you're doing right now. Go to the store and buy me the following items. I will reimburse you." So I came home with a cardboard box full of 6 kittens, and he was like, "I told you I didn't want children." Haha, hysterical. Meanwhile, I'm FaceTiming my now husband, then fiance, like, "Look at all the kittens I found." And I was researching, like, online and on YouTube, how to keep these things alive. So they were living in a laundry bin in my bathroom for a while. You have to feed them with kitten milk replacement every couple of hours.
Yep.
And you have to keep them warm because they have no way of regulating their body temperature that young. You have to help them go to the bathroom, everything. And since there were 6 of them, I decided to name them the Avengers. Sadly, we lost Thor couple days in because of CH, and I took that really, really rough. And I didn't appreciate until much later that it was a miracle that I was able to raise 5 of them successfully, and they were all healthy cats. But at the time, I was really torn up about it. I did make one mistake is who I'll give him credit to my former boss who helped me raise them. We kind of shuttled them back and forth, and he footed the bill for all the formula and the bottles and the housing that we kept them in and the vet and stuff. But when it came time to split the litter up, we decided I would keep 2 and he would keep 3. So I kept Captain America and Black Widow, and he kept Hawkeye, Ironheart, and Hulk. And when I parted ways with the company at in December 2020, he was like kind of a major dick about it, and I think about the other 3 Avengers all the time. And PJ, if you're listening, give me my fucking cat back. All 3 of them, please. Oh wait, he's not listening because he's in prison right now. Anyway, but to the positivity of it, I successfully, with the help of my roommate and my former boss, raised 5 healthy kittens, and they're amazing. And the 2 I kept, Black Widow and Captain America, are sleeping on me as we speak. They're amazing and wonderful. And it's an incredible experience. You know, if you have the time and the money and the mental bandwidth, I guess I could say, to foster a litter of neonatal kittens, please do it. It's, a lot of them, thousands of them get put down every year. And it's kitten season. So fosters are needed. It's definitely heartbreaking to let them go when they're ready to be adopted, but it's also a happy thing because they're healthy. They're going to go to their forever homes, and they're happy. And Captain America is a true American hero.
Sure.
Yep. I just want to make sure. Now, you specifically said Ironheart,
Mm-hmm.
which is for those who don't know, she's a relatively new character. Why Ironheart?
So that is because for the first 2 days, she was Iron Man, and then I took them to the vet and found out which were girls and which were boys. And Ironheart was a girl, so we changed it from Iron Man to Ironheart. And Hawkeye is also a girl, but we kept that one, and then I got all the others right. So.
All right.
Now, I'm not quite sure how to put this, but could you tell us about the Bathtub promos?
The Bathtub promos. Yeah, absolutely. I think, let's see, I'm trying to think what was my first Bathtub promo. I don't know. I was just like looking for a creative way to film a promo that wasn't, against a blank wall or me, just pointing at and gesturing wildly at the camera. And also nobody was home to film it for me, so I had to really get creative. And I was like, fuck it, I'll be really spooky and emotional in my bathtub. So that first one was the only one that was even remotely serious, and the rest of my bathtub promos since have just been completely ridiculous, and it's become a meme at this point. So whenever I'm cutting a promo that's, not so serious for kind of a more lighthearted event or lighthearted match, I'll probably set up in the bathtub. It's just how I work at this point. And finding, when I moved last year, finding a place with a big enough bathtub for me to cut promos in was part of house hunting. And that is how the bathtub promos came to be.
Because when house hunting, the business comes first.
The business does come first.
Now, on your Twitter bio, it says, on your Instagram bio, I should say, it says you're a beanie enthusiast.
Yes.
Could you tell us about beanies and why you're an enthusiast of them?
Well, I have been wearing a beanie whenever I leave the house pretty much every day since I was probably 18. It started off with one beanie that I really liked that I bought at Spencer's at the mall when I was 17, and from there it's grown exponentially. I believe they're the perfect hat, at least for me, and I look awesome in them. So I keep up the habit. I have an entire 13 by 13 cube box completely overstuffed with beanies because I have so many of them from different brands, companies I like. Some of my friends have beanies as merchandise, so I always like to support my friends in any industry they're in. So if they have a beanie available, I will buy it. And just really, really like wearing them. I try not to make small aspects of myself like a personality trait, but wearing beanies is definitely a personality trait of mine.
And I'm kind of like the same way. I have an obscene amount of beanies, but I live in Southern California, and it's currently like 100 degrees outside as we speak. So I can't exactly wear beanies all the time.
Well, you're just not, you're just not toughing it out. You suffer for fashion. You suffer for the art. And it's, I live in Florida. It's, they declare a national state of emergency every time it dips below 78 degrees here.
That's true.
But I will sweat and suffer and die in order to wear my beanie.
Alright.
I also have a collection of beanies just to drop it in.
And is there a personal favorite one that's maybe the softest, or one that you just love above all the others?
I go through phases where I'll wear one every day for like a few weeks or months. But I have a few that I favor, and there are always ones that are gonna, not ride up on my head, and ones that have soft bands, so it's not like constricting my head to have to give me a break. So right now, my daily wear is my Triforce beanie that one of my best friends got me from the Nintendo store in New York City.
Nice.
And that is what I am currently wearing. Sometimes I'll break out, and it's black, of course. 99% of my beanies are black, but I have some in other colors, and occasionally I'll if it's a special occasion, I will break out a beanie of another color.
Alright. Scooter, any last questions?
Yes. Now, you you had the chance to appear on a card with Vader in the last few months of his life. Did you get the chance to interact with him at all?
So unfortunately, Vader was not actually at the show. He was scheduled to appear, but I believe he was already kind of running into the health problems that unfortunately would result in the end of his life. So I was not able to meet Vader, and I was pretty sad about that because I was looking forward to meeting him, but it was still a cool show. I got to share a locker room with a lot of cool people. You know, I had Ricky Steamboat, you know, critiqued my match. I got to sit and chat with Mick Foley for a little while, so it wasn't, you know, wasn't a total loss, I would say, but sadly I did not actually get to meet Vader.
All right. Now on to a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
All right, so hear me out. I am for pineapple on pizza, but it has to be under certain circumstances.
Okay.
You know, it's got to be from a place that I can trust to do pineapple on pizza correctly. Like, I have to be in a certain type of mood to want it, and I also need to investigate the pizza place in question to see if I get the feel that it's going to be a good bet. Because if it's a place that lists like Hawaiian pizza or some sort of pineapple on their pizza, like specialty order as like one of their regular specials, then it'll be safer for me to assume that it's gonna be a good one, and I'm not gonna have like sad, depressed, half expired pineapple on my pizza. If it's just like a drop down menu selection, I might be a little more wary. And usually, if in a group setting, I will look for support from another member of the group to join me in my pineapple endeavor. Otherwise, I will be less likely to do so. But those are my stipulations. However, in general, you can say that I do support it.
All right. I don't think we've ever got such a particular way of ordering pineapple on pizza on the show before. What's your spirit Pokemon?
Definitely Pikachu.
There you go.
It's again probably a cliched answer, but just I vibe so hard with Pikachu, just with like, you know, how specifically Ash's Pikachu, just like with how much he enjoys naps and he enjoys sweets, and how he just likes to chill in the unlikeliest in the most unlikely of places, like on top of Ash's hat, or just like poking out of the backpack. Like that's me. That's me as the Pokemon. Oh, and having rage issues that result in great power. Like me kind of hulking out, you know, the equivalent of a wrestler who wears a singlet, you know, pulling the straps down, which immediately results in like a 67% increase in power. That's me. That's me charging up as Pikachu against the the Sparrows.
I love the reference to the first episode. Weirdest question you'll ever be asked in a wrestling podcast. Would you ever consider wrestling a rock? Not Dwayne Johnson,
Not the country.
an actual rock.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Would you ever consider wrestling a rock? Not Dwayne Johnson.
Uh,
Not the
like
country.
an actual rock.
Yes.
A small boulder.
I am sorry to burst your bubble, but that is by far far from the weirdest question I have been asked on a wrestling podcast. However, I do like
Oh.
the spirit of it, so I
Oh.
will.
It'll get weirder. Don't worry.
I would absolutely wrestle a rock. I have wrestled an invisible bear. I've wrestled a small child. I've wrestled with my emotions. And rocks can be fucking terrifying. You know, especially the ones that you find in your shoe that you can't, like, take your shoe off and you shake it out like 17 times and you still can't get that rock out, but you can feel it every time you put your shoe back on.
Yes.
Is the most miserable thing in the world. Like, they don't get enough credit for how versatile they are.
And if you have the contact information for the imaginary bear, could you give it to Travis Huckabee?
I will certainly keep you apprised. The invisible bear, he comes and he goes. He's tough to get a hold of. Like, you don't really book him. He books himself, and he just kind of goes up, and it's like, oh, surprise! You're wrestling the invisible bear.
Okay then. He's got that Hulk Hogan schedule, brother.
He does.
Just for context, there's this wrestler named Psycho Mike that wrestled an actual rock for over 15 minutes in what was a Tungsten Man match. An Iron Man match that lasted for 2 weeks.
Fantastic. I'm happy for him.
I'm just very curious. What was the weirdest question you've ever been asked on a wrestling podcast?
Oh, God, how much time do you have?
Just the first one. The one that sticks out the most.
Just off the top of my head, one from the vault is who'd Bret Hart ever beat?
Oh my god, I'm not ready for that. Alright. On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, I see myself signed with a major company, the same company that my husband is signed to. Our cats each have their own throne, as they deserve, because they're fucking magical. I have all of the home organization tools and systems that I need because I'm a huge nerd about that. I don't know why. It just makes me really happy to organize shit. I probably have a problem and should seek help for it. But that is where I'm at. And that's not in 5 years. That's in like a year.
And your cat should be fully through college by then, right?
It depends. I'm not sure, who's gonna go for a master's, if anybody's gonna go for their doctorate. They'll definitely be done with undergrad.
Okay. Where's a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what Chelsea Durden is all about?
Definitely the one I had with the Invisible Bear, if you've got a chance. No, but really, you could look up my match against Rocky Radley on Title Match Network. I have, one against Catalina Perez on Shine. Was pretty gnarly.
And I believe that match with Catalina is on YouTube, right?
I think we've had a couple at Shine, and I'm actually not sure which one is available for free on YouTube and which one you'd have to like go into the vault for.
Okay, I believe the one where Allysin Kay and Marti Belle interfered is the one I need to cover.
Yeah, I think that might be the one.
Okay. Well, I'll put that match in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox, so people could go check it out after they listen to this. And since we're nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh no.
This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Gosh, do I have a choice?
No.
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 Yeah.
Alright. Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Undertaker.
Worst wrestler.
Myself. Oh shit, you said including myself.
No, you can't be you.
Okay, I can't say myself. See. How much heat do I want?
We do have a default answer depending on.
Wait, you know what? It's Bret Hart. Who'd Bret Hart ever be?
I will accept that answer. You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
The President of the United States, Becky Lynch.
Alright. If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
CM Punk's first one with WWE. This Fireburn, Killswitch Engage, because I fucking love Killswitch Engage.
That's definitely a good one. Underrated. Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Really complicated, sometimes unnecessary, in some ways outdated, in some ways needs to be strengthened, sometimes complicated, sometimes not, that 50-mile vets need to shut the fuck up about.
Okay, we also would have accepted is quite good on toast.
Very well, I'll keep that in mind.
Squash. Fruit or vegetable?
What was it?
Squash.
Squash is a balanced part of this complete breakfast. I love squash, and I won't let anybody slander it.
But is it a fruit
Squash
or
can
a
be whatever
vegetable?
it wants to be. It doesn't have to be in the bonds of a binary fruit or vegetable. Squash is free.
Alright. I
applaud that.
New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
Shit, as covered as possible. Ideally. Because I don't I don't want to see anybody's ass. Like male, female, anything in between. I don't want none.
All right. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know.
The third strangest question you'll ever be asked on a podcast.
Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
Not with a stranger.
And that is the correct answer. It technically has to be with a stranger. That was, huh?
Well, it wasn't with a stranger, but it was definitely with Bret Hart, and I asked him who he'd ever beat, and then he railed from there.
The only thing he ever beat was a dead horse. No.
I won't have you slander Bret Hart.
That will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with us, Chelsea.
Yes.
Absolutely, my pleasure. This was fun. I haven't done a podcast in a while just because I'm tired of like the same 6 questions, and I'm over it. But this was not that, and appreciate you letting me come on and talk about my cats and beanies, which are like my 2 favorite things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We try to make it fun for everybody.
Yeah.
And, this isn't a podcast. This is an audio experience. There's a big difference.
An audio experience. It's okay to call yourself a podcast. It's fine. It's not taboo. But it's not a, so tell me where you got your start.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's a fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Once again, could you tell us where we can find you on social media and your merchandise?
You can find me on Instagram at Durden Says, Twitter at The Durden Says, ProWrestlingTees.com/Chelsea Durden if you're interested in helping me put my cats through college. PayPal.me/Chelsea Durden if you are interested in donating to the Chelsea Keeps the Lights On Fund. And that is me keeping the lights on in my home in this ever worsening economy. And as always, from myself here, speaking for myself, I accidentally just slipped into podcast host mode and flashed back to my own podcast of the past. We hope that you stay safe and stay jacked.
And you do have your own podcast, Demon Road Diaries, correct?
I do. It's on hiatus at the moment. It's been for a little bit. We're kind of reshuffling some things, but you can find the illustrious backlog of Demon Road Diaries episodes anywhere podcasts are available. Like Spotify. Go on Spotify. Just go on Spotify. It's there. Demon Road Diaries.
And of course, all of those links will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. You don't have to type it into your Google machine. Just click the link in the description of the video below. You've been listening to her for almost an hour and a half. Buy a damn short. Of course, if you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, both on YouTube and Castbox. Of course, this was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us next Wednesday as we have another incredible interview. Follow the show at Wrestling with E both on Twitter and Instagram for all your Wrestling with Entertainment needs. You can follow us individually as well. I am at JamesJ993. Where can they find Scooter?
As always, find me peeking out from under your bed. Find me on Twitter at ScooterDust. Find me and James on YouTube hosting the Remix, the only live streaming alternate commentary audio experience on the web today, so after 6 years. And of course, revel in all-night Twitch antics on the multiple Twitch channels I'm a part of, but specifically, join me, Enrico Constantino Jr., and the rest of the Smoking Dragons clan, twitch.tv/Smoking Dragons. Every side has 20 stories. Come be a part of ours.
Oh, and don't forget to follow my husband on Twitter and Instagram at Samson Lion Zion to help contribute to the wonderful experience of every time my husband gains a new follower, he looks at me and goes, "Who the hell is this?" Because he has no concept of people being fans of him and wanting to follow him for that reason. So help me out, guys.
There's so many things I could say about that. Chelsea, when I say wrestling wit, you say entertainment, alright?
Got it.
For our very special guest, Chelsea Durden, Kaliko Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling Wit.
Bret Hart. Sorry, entertainment.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Hey guys, this is Brutal Bob Evans from Hangs with Bob Seminars and TheWrestleLife.com, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.